Hello, this is Matt Singer. I am the arts and culture editor at Willamette Week, and today I am talking to Justin Hintze. He is the owner of the very popular Portland food cart JoJo's,
Hmm.
which is now going to spin off into a brick and mortar restaurant, kind of following a trend that we've seen with a lot of food carts over the last year, despite all the challenges of the pandemic. And Justin, let me ask you: was the goal always to kind of take JoJo's and take it and turn it into a brick and mortar?
Yeah, when I first opened the truck, I came into the industry with zero experience. I'd never worked in a kitchen before opening JoJo, so I didn't have time to really dream that ambitiously. My goal at that point was just to open and stay open and make a living. But things have gone well enough to where I've been able to open up my ambitions and ideas for what we can do with the concept. So I guess in some sense, yes, I was hoping to open a restaurant, but I didn't really think it'd be possible this soon.
So how then did this opportunity come up?
Um, we just got really, really busy. So we've been able to, have enough sales that I can afford to start this process. And I would say COVID actually, it's counterintuitively has expedited the process. So, a lot of restaurants closed, which opened up customers for the carts. I think carts have benefited actually from COVID. So it's hard to say, if that's causation necessarily, but we got busier and busier and busier, especially after doing the free food. We did about a month of free food for everybody, and that helped really kind of explode things for us. So in between that and the market for commercial, restaurant leasing it's very friendly. It's very much a buyer's market right now. So I was able to get a really good deal on a space, and there's so many spaces available that it really made that process a lot easier.
So what are some of the challenges of getting kind of trying to establish a brick and mortar during the pandemic? You kind of mentioned when we were talking previously before recording that the process had been a little bit slower than either you expected or that you had heard that it had been.
Yeah.
What have been some of the challenges there?
I would say one is hiring is going to be tough. There's a lot of really, really good applicants here on the market, but I'm going to have to try to pack the truck as full as many employees as possible to be able to have a deep bench to bring over to the restaurant. And thankfully, everybody's getting vaccinated now, so I think I'll be able to do this. But I've been really worried about not being able to maintain social distance in the truck to be able to make that happen. And then also physically building out the restaurant, permitting with the city, and things are slowed down in terms of that. So we are expecting some delays in terms of the build out for the new restaurant because of the COVID side of things. But for the most part, COVID, tragic as it may be, it's been not bad for the food cart industry for sure. So I would say, if anything, it's expedited things for me.
Right. As I said, that you're one of a couple of very popular food carts that kind of went from, cart to brick and mortar in, a very fast amount of
Yeah.
time. What is the feeling? I guess when you talk about the food cart industry, is that or people in the food cart world, is it a different world than the people in the restaurant world? And I guess are the attitudes towards what's been happening over the last year different between those two groups?
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of overlap for sure. And there are people that own restaurants and carts. And I would say the food scene as a whole is super supportive, and there's no like competition between carts and restaurants, but it is just sort of a different thing. But overall, everybody's been really supportive and taking care of each other. Like I said, coming into this with no experience, I didn't know what it was going to be like. And I've just been embraced and by amazing people, here in the industry, especially, my friend Richard with Mata and Han from Kim Jong Grill. And, there's been some people that have really sort of, we banded together and taken care of each other. In terms of, culturally, I would say, carts were a little scrappier for sure. It's just a different animal completely with what we're dealing with, smaller operations, but we're dealing with gray water and all these things that you just don't see in the restaurant side of things. So I'm interested myself to see what that transition is going to be like and see what running a restaurant, how different that's going to be.
What are your feelings right now on the Portland food scene as a whole? There's obviously been, now that we're a year into this, it's been a year of doom and gloom. We've seen a
Yeah.
ton of, kind of foundational, iconic restaurants close. But I also feel like there's just been, stuff constantly opening, and as soon as one restaurant closes, it seems like another place opens into it. So it seems like it's maybe a changing of the guard more so than like an apocalypse out
Yeah.
there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, any sort of apocalyptic predictions about the food scene are just hogwash. I think there's no question in my mind that we're going to continue to have a thriving food scene. It's been absolutely tragic, and we've seen so many amazing places close down. And I think a lot of those people you're going to see come right back into the industry. I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but those people, for the most part, aren't going anywhere. If you're making good food and you don't suck, you're going to be fine in the city. It's still a really great breeding ground for talent, restaurants, and carts.